Public humiliation isn't about words. It's about power. The moment someone puts you down in front of other people, only one thing is really happening. They're not trying to hurt your feelings. They're trying to take control of the room. Who laughs? Who goes quiet? Whether you stumble, whether you shrink. In those few short seconds, they're going for the energy in that space. And here's the truth most people lose right there. Not because they couldn't think of the right thing to say, but because they let someone else set the pace. Think about it. Someone mocks you in front of a group. They bring up an old mistake. They take a shot at how you look. They dismiss your job, your idea, your worth. And almost instantly, your body reacts. Your heart speeds up. Your face gets hot. Your mind goes blank for just a second. And time feels like it slows down. Right at that moment, most people do one of two things. They fire back fast, or they swallow it fast. Both are fast. And fast is exactly what the other person wanted. So what you actually need to learn today isn't a better comeback. It's not about having a sharper insult ready. Winning a verbal fight feels good for about 10 seconds. But long term, it doesn't make you stronger. What needs to change is something much more fundamental. When someone tries to shake you in public, why do you move at their speed? That's what has to stop. Now, this might sound a little strange, but public humiliation rarely comes out of nowhere. Before it ever happens, there are always smaller moments. Someone crossed a line and you laughed it off to keep the peace. Someone made a rude joke and you let it slide, because you didn't want to kill the vibe. Someone said something that genuinely bothered you, but you thought, maybe I'm just being too sensitive. When those moments stack up, certain people learn something about you. This person lets things go. This person smooths things over. This person won't rock the boat, even when they're uncomfortable. And that pattern? That's what eventually leads to the public moment. So if you keep finding yourself in the same situation, with the same type of person, again and again, it's not because you're weak. It's because your reactions have been too predictable. People figure out faster than you'd think how far they can push you. Where to stop. Who they have to watch themselves around. Who they can just throw things at without a second thought. And they're almost never wrong about it. Because you've been teaching them. Now, I'm not saying you need to walk around on edge all the time. Actually, it's the opposite. The truly strong person isn't someone who's always ready for a fight. It's the person who's warm and relaxed most of the time, but becomes unmistakably clear the moment a line gets crossed. That difference is massive. Someone who's always tense, exhausting to be around, but someone who's easygoing right up until the moment they're not. You don't mess with that person. And honestly, most disrespect stops right there. Let's go into the actual moment now. Someone just took a shot at you in front of others. Your body is already reacting. And here's what you need to do first. Not find something clever to say. Stop. Just for a second. Just a beat. Slow down before you speak. The other person is waiting for your immediate reaction. Will you freeze up? Force a laugh? Get defensive? Snap back? They're watching to decide their next move. But here's what's wild. If you don't give them that instant reaction, something strange happens. The room is looking at you, yes. But in that brief silence, the pressure slowly shifts back to them. Because now they're sitting with their own words. A lot of people think silence is weakness. It's not. Controlled silence is power. It's not that you have nothing to say. It's that you're declaring, I don't rush for anyone. In those few seconds, you're showing the room, with your body, that this person's words don't get to define you. You're not looking away. You're not scrambling. You're not rushing to smooth things over. You're just there. It sounds small, but it's how you flip the room. Now, if you do need to say something, keep it short. The second you go long, you look like someone on trial. That's the trap of public humiliation. They threw one sentence. You come back with 5. And everyone watching can see who's uncomfortable. People don't process content in those moments. They read the dynamic. One person was casual, the other person is explaining themselves. That picture alone settles the question of who's in control. So your words need to be short. Short, low, and clear. And here's the key: don't defend yourself. Most people's instinct is to explain. That's not what I meant. The context was different. You don't have the full story. But none of that makes you look stronger. It just pulls you into the frame they built. And that frame says, now prove you're worth something. You don't have to accept that invitation. The most powerful move instead? Name what's happening. That felt like a put down. That didn't really land as a joke. That was less funny, more rude. Here's why those lines work. You're not attacking. You're not exaggerating. You're just saying out loud what everyone in the room already felt. But no one said. Public humiliation runs on ambiguity. Keep it blurry enough that if you react, you look sensitive. But the second you name what just happened, the blur disappears. And now the awkwardness belongs to them, not you. One more thing you have to remember: your voice. A lot of people think getting louder makes them look stronger. It's actually the opposite. Volume shows that you're rattled. A low, even voice shows that you have standards. You want to sound like someone drawing a line, not someone starting a fight. The goal isn't to make them back down. The goal is to show the room that your footing doesn't move. And sometimes, the most powerful thing isn't what you say. It's where you look next. You don't have to keep your attention on the person who just took a shot at you. Handle it briefly, and then turn back to whatever you were doing. Anyway, where were we? That one move is stronger than you think. You're not running away from them. You're deciding how much of your attention they're worth. And for someone who feeds on reactions, indifference stings more than anger. But it can't look like sulking or passive aggression. It has to be calm, deliberate, so the room reads it correctly. That person knows exactly where to spend their energy. Now, I have to be honest with you here. Because most advice on this topic glosses right over this part. Some words go deep. They hit something you haven't fully worked through yet. A sore spot you carry quietly. And when that happens, feeling shaken isn't a character flaw. It's just human. Don't let it bother you. Just be cool. Ignore it. That's not real advice. People feel things. The goal isn't to become someone who doesn't get hurt. The goal is to become someone who gets hurt but doesn't fall apart. So where does that come from? Self-awareness. When someone's words land unusually hard, it's usually not because they were so accurate. It's because there's something inside you that hasn't been settled yet. If a crack about your career stings and stays with you for hours, maybe part of you still has doubts about the path you're on. If someone bringing up an old mistake makes your face burn, maybe you still haven't fully forgiven yourself for it. If someone takes a shot at your finances, your relationships, how you look, and you feel unusually rattled, that area is still an open question for you. Noticing that isn't humiliating. It's actually the beginning of freedom. Because once you see it, you can separate two things. The other person being rude, that's on them. The reason their words echoed so loudly inside you, that's yours to work through. If you can't make that separation, you'll keep blaming other people for your pain, while quietly leaving the real wound untouched. People who don't get shaken by public humiliation aren't just mentally tough. They've done enough self-work to have some answers about who they are. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. I have gaps. But none of that wipes out my value. A person who carries that kind of groundedness doesn't rush to defend themselves when someone takes a shot, because the verdict is already in. Internally, someone else's words can be noted. They can't be the final word. And here's the thing: people can read this about you faster than you'd expect. They're not watching your facial expression as closely as they're watching how you treat yourself. Someone who crumbles at the smallest push tends to be hard on themselves in general. And someone who barely flinches when challenged isn't someone without flaws. They're just someone who has made peace with their flaws. When you've accepted yourself, you stop rushing in front of other people. But let's not stop here. Because this is only half of it. The moment passes. You handled it. You held your ground. And then, later that night, it comes back. In the shower, lying in bed, suddenly you're replaying the whole thing. The words, the expressions, the way the room felt. And it starts. Why didn't I say something better? Why did I just stand there? I lost that one. I'm such a pushover. Here's the truth: the words from the moment don't do the most damage. The words you say to yourself afterward do. To change that, you have to change how you replay it. Stop asking, was I perfect? Ask instead, did I stay on my own side? If you used to laugh things off, and this time you kept your eyes steady, that's growth. If you used to over-explain and this time you kept it short, that's progress. We keep chasing the perfect comeback when what we actually need to recover is just a small return to our own standard. And if someone keeps crossing the line, handle it privately, not in the moment. A lot of people mess this up. They wait until they're full of emotion and then let it all out. Why did you do that? Do you have any idea how that made me feel? You always do this. I'm done with you. That becomes a fight. And when it becomes a fight, your actual point gets lost. What you need to say isn't long. What happened earlier, I'd appreciate it not happening again. I don't let things like that pass. Just so you know, that's it. That's enough. You're not there to teach them a lesson. You're there to mark a boundary. And a boundary isn't a negotiation. It's a notification. When you say it, your face matters too. Calm lands harder than angry. You don't need to look like you're making a declaration. Just sound like someone stating a fact that was already decided. Because real boundaries don't come from how emotional you are. They come from how consistent you are. The message you want to send isn't, I'm upset. It's, I have standards, and I actually keep them. When you start moving this way, something a little unexpected happens. The person who used to casually take shots at you starts choosing their words more carefully. People who used to laugh along start paying attention to how you react. Some people might even seem uncomfortable around the new version of you. That's not a bad sign. That's a precise sign. It means the old order, where you were easy to dismiss, is breaking down. You're taking your place back. Remember this. Dignity doesn't come from having the perfect response. It comes from never losing your own pace. Charisma isn't built by putting people down. It's built from a standard no one can shake. The most formidable person in a room when someone gets publicly humiliated isn't the one with the best insult. It's the one who controls the energy first. You can be that person. You don't have to be born bold. You don't have to be naturally quick. You just have to make one decision. I'm done moving at someone else's speed. Starting today, one shift. Go from being someone who reacts the second a line gets crossed, to being someone who pauses. That pause changes more than you think. Your expression changes. Your eyes change. The length of what you say changes. And eventually, the way people see you changes. People remember less about what you said and more about who you seemed to be. Did you seem like someone scrambling? Or someone who knew exactly where they stood? That impression is what stays. And before I let you go, hold on to this. Just because someone tries to make you small in front of other people doesn't mean you actually got smaller. That was a scene. Just a scene. How you interpret it is what builds you up or cuts you down. Someone's words can ruin an hour. They don't get to take your standard. That belongs to you. Keep it that way. The next time that moment comes, you won't rush. You won't force a laugh. You won't over-explain. You'll pause. You'll read the room. You'll say something short if it needs to be said. And if it doesn't, you'll just return to yourself. That's what winning looks like when someone tries to humiliate you publicly. Not loud, not flashy, just the quiet, unshakable decision to not lose yourself. That kind of win doesn't always get applause. But it's the kind that actually changes things. The kind where you don't tear anyone down. But you make it clear you can't be torn down either. The day someone tries to make you small again is coming. But that day will be different. Because now you know, this was never a battle of words. It was always a battle of order. And that order? It was never theirs to take.